Right, thank you, everybody. Welcome. Let's call the meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7:07. If you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Dr. Willett, any acknowledgements?
No.
Okay. All right. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the August 27th minutes.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Jen?
Aye.
Aye. Bill?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Rini?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And Dana?
Aye.
Right, motion passes. Public participation. Members of the Tolland Board of Education welcome the members of the public to share their thoughts and ideas at this time. When appropriate to do so, members of the board and the administration may respond to comments during points of information. However, in consideration of those in attendance and in an effort to proceed in a timely manner, follow-up discussion may need to take place outside of the public setting. If you would like to speak, either step up to the owl, be recognized, or raise your Zoom hand. As always, please start with your name and address for the minutes. All right. Going twice, one more opportunity here. All right, seeing none, we'll close public participation. Bill, correspondence.
Nothing to report. Last 2 weeks.
All right, thank you. Points of information. Would anybody from the board like to speak?
Yeah, Tony. And Jen noted it when I walked in that, I'm a little moody right now. And unfortunately, that's, today's events. And it's not just the shooting of a popular, free speech advocate, whatever you deem them, whatever. There's a school shooting literally coinciding with it at the same time in Colorado. This is not necessarily a message for the public. This is more a message for between the two parties as we head into campaign season. I don't think there's any room for this type of stuff. I don't care, again, whether this side or that side. The first thing I think of, and this is what I said when I heard the news today on the phone, was the first thing I think of are the children in any scenario. Whether it's a hurricane, first thing I think of is what happened to the kid. Do the kids have somewhere to go? It's just a natural. That's why I work with children, because it's a natural sort of instinct. And to think that he's got 2 kids that won't get to see him come home, it's devastating. And not to mention 3 kids wounded in a school shooting on the same day. So, in this room, I see a couple, candidates on there. I see plenty of Board of Ed members currently serving on there between both parties. And it is my hope that going back to our parties or whatever you want to call it, that we can emphasize at the end of the day, we all have a right to feel how we feel and not worry about some sort of political or any sense of violence, whether it's us, whether it's the person in charge of the school district, whether it's the person in charge of the town, whoever it may be, or the kids in our schools. And so as we head into tonight's meeting, my thoughts are with everybody affected today, because it's got to stop, and it's got to. So feeling a certain way today. I hope everyone can be safe and again, just get along and we'll get through this. So let's talk to each other and get through it instead of the alternative. So that's all. I just figured it was important that at least that gets said for the candidates, for the current serving Board of Ed members as well. So that's all.
Good words.
Thank you.
Well said. Anybody else? Right, thank you. Committee and liaison reports, FFC.
Nothing to report at this time.
Curriculum?
We reported last week. We haven't met for this month yet.
Copy that. Policy.
Nothing to report at this time.
Copy. Negotiations?
We settled the administrator's contract yesterday, so we will be bringing that to the board probably on October 15th.
Wonderful.
What's up next?
Communications.
Communication,
They have
which is
not-
where I'm saying.
But they, we didn't get.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, no chairperson's report this week. Dr. Willett, item K1, monthly financial report.
Okay, let me get this shared over for everybody. Could I? Okay. So again, we are pretty early in the year. There's not a lot of movement yet for August for this financial report. You know, as would be expected, you know, at this point, 2.4% of the budget is unencumbered. It's about $1,069,000. The rest of it still remains kind of to be spent as we enter the year. August is still just the second month of that fiscal year for us, and most of the balances are going to be pretty high. Not much has been expended, and there's really not too much to report. Basic trends, excuse me, I have to let somebody in. Basic trends are essentially that teacher salaries are a little under budget at the moment. That's due to resignations. There's some new hires. Extracurricular is a little over, but you know, that's because of the pay to participate aspects of our clubs now, and we're going to be waiting, just like we do for sports, for the funds to be coming in. The deadline is September 19th, and then October 7th, I will identify which ones are running, which ones are not. That should balance out at that point. At least some of it will. Other employee benefits, there's a little bit high on that right now. There's a new TSA that some contractually are obliged to, so that's going to impact a little bit. Not again, these are small movements at this time. Let's see, anything else really? I think that's kind of the highlights as they are now. There's other things I could talk about, but online services, but it's all stuff you'd expect, and we're really just into the first month of the school year right now in September, and this is a month ago. So there's not a whole lot to really talk about right now from the ins and outs.
Any questions? Go ahead, Jim.
Are we still having trouble finding substitutes?
Maybe like subs?
Yeah,
Or,
like substitute teachers, substitute.
yeah, I mean, I think we're doing okay, but we can always use more. What everyone pays in the area dictates sometimes who's going where and when.
Mhm.
We're competitive. We're not the highest.
Right.
We're not the lowest. So, we do okay.
Any other discussion? Willett, item K2, open choice program.
Okay. Okay, so many of you know that we're involved with the open choice program, and we got involved many years ago. At this point, getting close to almost a decade, and it is a program established in the state of Connecticut in response to the Sheff versus O'Neill Supreme Court ruling. There was a second Supreme Court ruling with respect to Sheff versus O'Neill that put additional action needs on the state of Connecticut to balance out its schools from a racial, ethnic, and economic point of view. So it's in force across Connecticut to try to remedy what Sheff versus O'Neill indicated was was unbalanced in our state. So it's governed by Connecticut General Statute 266AA. And its main objectives are equity and opportunity, diversity, enrichment, community partnership, and positive outcomes. Because the literature shows that kids that are together, grow up together, get along better, and that it helps all the kids involved. It strengthens regional collaboration as we do many things together, and I've gone to Hartford to present before. I've worked with a variety of people that I wouldn't have worked with otherwise, and we've formed really strong partnerships. We've gotten PD out of it that is at low cost. Some of it was at no cost, and it's been a very good partnership since the beginning. There's a price structure that provides funding for students who are coming to the district, who are students that are Tolland students from Hartford. And that escalates as the number of students that are in the district increases. And I've talked about that in budget season. One of the pages of our budget booklet speaks directly to the open choice program. And it talks about all of the aspects of it, what its escalation points are, all of that. And so, there's many benefits, and the kids have had many benefits from being involved as well, which has come out in a variety of ways over time. The state of Connecticut has information on the link that I provided, and from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 25, we've had our budgets offset by $532,000 based on our partnerships. So, it's been something that's been beneficial for our school system from the standpoint of kids growing up together and equity and having a better balance in Tolland, but it's also provided an opportunity for us to provide the best programs available to all of Tolland students, whether they come from Tolland or Hartford or somewhere else. So it's an excellent program. We've benefited greatly. And I think, the state of Connecticut put it in place for these reasons. Currently, our enrollment is 14 kids in open choice. And giving you basic information tonight, should you decide to instruct me to do anything that you might want me to do with respect to the program. Right now we open up the seats typically every year in kindergarten. And the purpose of that is we'll take kids bring in the kids and enroll them in kindergarten so that they can grow up through all the grades together, which helps. It helps establish really good, strong relationships. Sometimes if children are, drop in sort of 10th grade or something, there hasn't been enough time for kids to grow up and get to know each other. And so sometimes there's tension points with that. If people aren't mindful about how to best implement it so that the kids are getting the best experience. We do allow siblings. So if a child comes in who's a kindergartner and has a first grade, second grade brother or sister, we'll allow a sibling in too. So right now, the enrollment area is right up through our elementary school, but we could expand that. And I have let siblings in. Long ago, the board brought in the program, and it was looking at 5 kids a year, 5 to 10 kids a year. That was the group. That was typically what was discussed. But we could expand that into more grades and accept many kids if that was what the board wanted to do now. One thing that we do want to make sure we're doing is we want to continue to make investments in professional development for staff and programming for kids so that we're providing the most beneficial environment for all Tolland students. And that's important when you're engaging in a program of this kind, so that you're giving everyone the best educational experience possible. So it does come with additional investment if we were to expand that. Things that worked against us as we engaged in the program, we also ended up having 2 major issues. We had the crumbling foundation that ended up having our kids in portables for quite a while. And we found that not many people wanted to send their children to a district where the children were just going to go into a portable. So that kind of impacted enrollment. And then COVID impacted enrollment. That kind of is a double whammy. So, we fluctuated a little bit, but landed around 14 students.
Go ahead, Jeff.
The 14 kids, what grades are they in right now? Where are they at?
Let's see. They're across all the way through 8th grade. So let's see, we have a K, 2 first grade, 2 second grade, a 4th grade, a 6th grade, 6th, 7th graders, and 2 8.
You had mentioned investment in personal development for the staff. Are you saying that we would need more personal development days than what we currently have in the calendar, or we would need to?
We'd need to work more PD into the days we have.
Okay,
Of course, it would never be bad if the board wanted to have more days. But, we would have to do. We'd have to expand that. We have to be doing that anyway. But
right.
The bigger this program gets, you do have to make sure that you're doing the adequate scaling of your programming to the growth of the program. So that would be a fact.
And what are we getting, like 1 or 2 kids a year? Essentially, is that what we've been doing, minus the COVID and the portable years?
Yeah, yes, it can fluctuate. Also, the state of Connecticut is the second chef settlement provided for other magnets and charters and additional financing. So some kids opted for that. They saw it and they thought, oh, wow, there's an aerospace, or there's there's this, there's that, there's more of these than there have been in the past. And so that also provides competition for this program. So that's happened too.
So
The other thing that helps is pre-K.
Right.
Districts that have pre-K tend to get kids at the youngest ages. And if we look at it, we're the second train stop on the ride. A lot of kids get on at the first train stop, and the first train stop is the districts that have pre-K.
So, I mean, we do have pre-K through the one program, right?
FRC,
FRC, is that available?
not
Or does
not
that
at
not even connect with
not
open
at
choice or
no
anything?
cost.
Okay,
Yeah, that it would be the pre-K I'm talking about would be the kind that like kindergarten.
sure,
There's no tuition or payment for that.
right. Do you think our staff is ready for an expansion of this?
Well, I think we have, amazing staff here, and I've been here since '06, so I can give you, historical perspective. I mean, Tolland's got awesome teachers and awesome bearers, awesome custodian secretaries, all, nurses, everybody. It's fantastic. I mean, you can have awesome staff, and we still need to have PD, I mean, it's for everyone, right? So, yeah, we have awesome staff. They do and will continue to make any Tolland student feel energized and inspired. But everybody needs training. And so the more students you have that, just really the more students you have from any program, the more training you need to make sure that they're getting the best experience. And everybody's getting the best.
I know you and I have talked about this a number of times, so this is definitely close to my heart to try and expand this program. And I think, the board back in, I'm guessing fiscal year 2000, when they first adopted this, I think it was a great move. And I think, we're ready for a small expansion I would be in favor of an expansion to like K through 5 instead of just K. It's my opinion.
Good, Jay. I think it's an interesting discussion. I do go back to, and we see it, even in Manchester, the dropping a kid in from a certain district, like an inner city Hartford, or depending on the location, whether it's the Verplank district in Manchester could be different from the Bowers district, right? So You drop a Verplank kid into the Bauer school, it's gonna be immediate, and it's just because of their environment and how they grew up. And it's just because there's a lot of factors there. So I'd be interested in the conversation. That's just where I am right now, in the sense of, look, I would love to expand this somehow. I do think the original idea, though, of starting it, let's get them in K and slate them here, to give them that, it's just that much more time for them to avoid. At that point, they don't really know,
I don't know what they don't know.
right,
Yeah.
and that's it. So it's, I am interested, and we've talked about this before, I am interested, while also keeping an understanding of why that decision, oh, jerk. Why that decision was made in the first place to cater to kindergarten, essentially. So there you go, this lane.
Reading,
Distracted you.
Randy, go ahead.
I wanted to thank you guys for bringing this up for discussion. I go along with both what Jaden said. I'm God and Bill. I'm not sure about up to 5th grade. I would think maybe more of some baby steps, like start doing maybe what we're doing now and add 1st grade, maybe 2nd grade, or, do 1st grade, see how that goes. And then if it goes okay and I don't know, I maybe feel like maybe what was said, dropping a 5th grader in right out of the gate might be a little bit difficult, perhaps. It's hard to say, but.
Jen?
Dr. Willett, do you know if we had a preschool program, how many? Do you have any idea? How
That
many
would be
students
the greatest magnifier.
But are we talking like 5? students or 15?
5 to 10. I think if there is there are a variety of reasons why a student may choose one place over another. It
Right.
can be distance, could be whatever. We're about a 20-minute bus ride, 25-minute bus ride. So we are pretty competitive from that point of view because we're right off the highway. Our 4 schools are right off 84. So we have an advantage with that. So because children that are coming are not going to be on a bus for an hour to get here. They will get here within, reasonable time. Our biggest obstacle right now is if we had it, we'd probably get quite a few more, and then they would have siblings that they brought. So it's the biggest magnifier for districts to have a preschool program that is like a kindergarten. And once you get to a certain point, it actually the compensation would balance out the cost
Yeah, that was where I was.
after a certain point.
Yeah,
But it would take a little while for that to happen, then it would.
I'd be interested in exploring that discussion further. I think I agree with Rini. I think, anything past 2nd grade, I don't know that I would think was the best idea right now. But the other thing I'd want to think about is, if we are going to expand this and bring in older kids, we should also think about, the support that we have in our schools, the guidance counselors, the social workers, the school psychologists. And we're low on those and we haven't been able to add more. So I would definitely want to consider that as well if we're going to make a decision with this.
To that, oops, sorry.
Dana?
I just wanted to add on to the expansion because I know that we talked about this a handful of meetings ago. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity to grow have some more folks added to our district. My suggestion would be keep it at Birch Grove to start. I think Jen said through 2nd grade. I think Rini said, start at the earlier levels, but I mean, maybe even just expand through Birch Grove only. But I definitely think this could be an opportunity to help us in many ways.
Good.
Just a question off of Jen's point, and we talked about this during the budget cycle last year, or this most recent year, so I'm so sorry for asking again. If we were to expand the open choice program into pre-K, what would we need in terms of staff? Is that just an additional teacher, an additional parent? Like, what would that for?
I mean, if you were gonna really do that, you need at least
4. Okay, so for 5 to 10 kids, that's where I'm getting tripped up, is so if we're expecting 5 to 10 students, excuse me, to come from, whatever, wherever, that to me sounds like, okay, we only need one staff member, one additional teacher.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna do preschool in Holland, you're
Pre-K.
taking
Pre-K.
in you're not gonna do preschool for
Just open choice.
open choice.
Right, okay,
So you would open it to your entire population, so you will get a group about the size of K. Because that is the group coming into K the next year. You're basically, yes, sorry, here. I mean, you probably might not get as many because some parents may not want to have their kids start that early, but you'll get a group that is sizable from Tolland.
but that answers that's
So, yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. Thank you.
So, and just my thoughts off the cuff, I mean, I hear and I'm hesitant. While I certainly recognize that Tolland offers opportunities that some of the Hartford schools may or may not, and there's certainly benefits that are coming here. I still look at there's also a struggle for that kid that gets on a bus and travels a half hour away from his friends, his family, to get dropped in the middle of Tolland to be educated. So, well, I think that's something that we have to be cognizant of, which is why I fully support, starting at the younger grades and bringing them in where these are their friends, these are, basically. But when we start looking at making Tolland, what would it take to increase the program? What would it take to entice more of these students that are available to want to choose Tolland? We're going back to that same conversation that we had almost a year ago in how do we advance Tolland to the place that we feel it needs to be, not just for the kids in open choice, but for the kids down the road, or the homeschooled, or the kids that are choosing magnet schools out of this area. I think when we start looking at increasing opportunities for these programs, we need to dial it back and really put a plan together that is a multi-year prep, rather than something where we can just start bringing them in. How many can we bring in? How quickly? It's not the right question. I think we've got to say, where do we need to be? And then we can say, what opportunities do we provide for any of these students outside the state or outside the city and the state? So just a thought. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I do just want to say that, I had the opportunity, when I was PTO president to, meet some of the, students and the families that were coming into the program, in typical Tom Swanson, our principal fashion. He was, bringing them around, and he saw me and called me over. And I will say, again, in typical Tom fashion, he did an amazing job. The excitement that he showed, the kids were so excited, the parents were happy, the staff, was exuberant to meet them. And so I do believe we've done this well. And at the younger grades, I was really just impressed with, how it felt very seamless. It felt very exciting. It felt very happy. So just wanted to know that.
I don't want to fall into a pitfall of trying to polish everything up before we finally say we're ready. Tolland right now has a lot to offer. Even with all the reductions that we've had to make over the years, we still are an excellent school district, producing excellent students and excellent human beings. And we have a lot to offer. And if I fear that if we get into more discussion and say, well, let's polish it up a little bit more, let's tweak it over here, let's tweak it over here, that another 5 years are going to go by. And how many kids could have come out here and really taken advantage of what we have? So, I'm open to expanding to Birch Grove only. I'm good with that. I want to put a foot in front of the other. We took a step 5 years ago. Let's take another step, because that first step was successful. Let's take another little step and let's see how it goes.
And I understand, I'm with you, Bill, what you're saying. I think when we say what what will it take to take that next step? And I think that's the conversation we need to have, not can we expand, but what's it going to take to expand? I know when we talked, just a few minutes ago, in Dr. Willett's presentation, he talked about to scale up increased PD. He talked about opportunities to really entice people. When we're looking at program changes like this, like expansions, I think there's harm in trying to jump into it before making sure that you've identified what needs to happen. I'm not saying we polish everything. We don't need to, implement all of the goals and strategies that we came up with a year ago. But I do think, especially when we're talking about some of these programs, that it requires caution. It requires to make sure that we've identified those things. We put plans in place to meet the requirements before we open up the doors and not after. I don't think we've had robust discussions and made sure that we're ready.
Dr. Willett, if we went to K1 and 2, what additional personal development would you need to prepare our staff that they're not getting for preparing them for kindergarten students in the open choice program? I mean, we're still talking about little kids.
Yeah. Hartford is a much larger place than Tolland. There's a lot of individuals from many different areas of the country and the world in Hartford, and Tolland doesn't have that. So right now, I think we do an excellent job of, and again, human beings in Tolland, they're the very beautiful human beings, they're the best people you could have anywhere on earth. When we interact with students from a variety of different places and backgrounds, there's going to naturally be variance in their own lived experiences that we would need to be best prepared for, to best educate. And that would require training. It would require training because, there's going to be a larger diversity of backgrounds than we have here. And we have to be prepared for that. And that does require, giving people time to understand those differences, to understand the unique qualities that everyone possesses from every aspect and every background. Intuitively, we all have that in us. We love each other, but there are nuanced aspects of things that, in order to be able to educate children in the best possible way, we will require education and training on the variety of backgrounds that we're experiencing that we don't necessarily have.
So what does that look like? Like a whole curriculum for our teachers to learn how to
we probably
teach?
bring in people for some of our ER days, for some portion of them, some of the in-service days, send teachers into locations. One of the things we did once was send our teachers into Hartford to meet with families, to take a ride into the neighborhoods that, in Hartford and so on, so they could get to know the kids, the families, where they're coming, from, what their feelings are, what their lived experiences are. We'd have to do more of that. In order to be responsible, we would need to be doing more of that. Right now, we do some element of it. But I think we would need to expand that if we were going to be expanding the program significantly. Because that would be our obligation to do that due diligence to make sure that everybody was getting the best education possible. Also, when kids, come from a variety of different backgrounds, they interact with each other differently. And so we have to do some training with the kiddos about, the opportunities they would have to have more and more experiences with individuals from different backgrounds than them. And that goes best when you put effort into making sure it goes best. So it's training. It's training for our own kids. It's training for our own staff. Everyone has a huge heart But it has nothing to do with whether you have a huge heart or not. It's kind of like, it's just learning, everybody has to learn. I mean, it has to learn what we don't intuitively know, and we don't intuitively know everything about every background unless we have the opportunity to learn it, so.
So if this board gave you a directive that beginning year 26-27 to open it to K1 and 2, would the remainder of year 25-26 be enough time to ramp up and get people trained in a manner that you feel is ready for 26-27 school year?
Well, I mean, I will always do what the board asks to do. And, I have time set aside that I would utilize for that purpose. That was the directive. I just wouldn't use that time for other things.
In the regular personal development days that we've got scheduled?
Yeah, I would start utilizing, I have superintendent time I spend with faculties. I would tool that towards this initiative. I just wouldn't use it for other things.
Okay.
That would be one example.
Ready?
Is it typical, Dr. Willett, to start off with maybe some sort of a limited lottery sort of situation where maybe you could say, okay, we're going to take, 5, first graders and 5 second graders, something like that. So you're kind of, again, easing into it a little bit, because obviously we already have some kids in these grades. So, there's been some exposure here to, how this could go, but would it be better to do it in that way? Or do you think it's not really going to be an issue?
No, I think we have actually applied that methodology to K in that we have opened up to traditionally 5 seats. So what we'd probably do is it would be 5 seats in each grade you wanted me to expand the initial opening to. So we would now take kids at 5 seats in, K, 5 seats in 1 and 5 seats in 2. Or you could tell me to take, 3 seats in 2 and 1, or no seats in 2 and expand it to 1 with 5 seats. You could give me any configuration you want. What tends to happen is, a lot of times a student, or maybe not all the time, but enough, they'll come and a sibling will want to come to, or they'll want to have both children come. And so that sometimes will mean that if a K comes, a grade 2 might come with them, and that might take up one of your 5 grade 2 seats. Right now, I do it as an exception. We will allow a grade 2 child in if that K child has a brother or sister that would otherwise be separated from them. So, we do sometimes do that now. I'll take a grade 2 in, but I usually won't go. We don't usually do that with high school, for instance, because there is, we haven't had that opportunity.
Yeah, too much. Well, so, I mean, ultimately, we're really talking about, probably bringing in like 10 kids. So it's not, I mean, when we're talking about professional development and that kind of a thing, it's not maybe quite so overwhelming, certainly in the beginning here, in terms of, getting ramped up, since we've been doing it anyway already, right?
Yeah, some of it, yes. That's why I would try to start to handle it with superintendent meetings that I have with staff. But let's say we did move aggressively into recruitment and did that for all 3 grades. If we have 5 max in the grades and we are putting ourselves out there with that new information, because we don't advertise that right now. We advertise just 1 grade, and if we advertise more than that, we will get into the booklets as having that opening, because right now we only get the people who are willing to say go into K. But new materials would say we're open K2, for instance, and we, the max, we don't usually say max 15, but we'll typically open seats like that. So if we got 10 to 15 a year, what will happen is in 3 years, let's say you got 15 a year, you've got 45 more kids, which adding to the group you have now would be 69 to 70 kids in a span of 3 years. That would be the max kind of a situation. And, if you get, 10 more in 3 years, you got 30, obviously. So you will start to expand fairly quickly, which is why, right now there's a lot of kids spread out over a series of grades. We'd start to get larger numbers in the same school. So we have 14 across 8 grades right now. We start getting, 15 per se in one span of 3 grades. So it would require a ramp up, but to your point, it's not like backbreaking. No, I mean, I would say I couldn't handle it if I thought I couldn't handle it or we could, but it's going to require reallocation of resources, probably some expense. But yeah, we can do that at K2.
So if we brought in siblings that are in some of the older grades at this point, then we should have some data on how that transition has gone for them.
I mean, I think the work we've done going back for years, that transition goes fairly well when they're young.
Up to second grade.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any real examples of dropping
Not
high school.
well. Right, or
Well, we don't have too many examples of situations where the kids have not had some time together in our system for a few years.
but if
The
so,
siblings even have had a few years as they come in. So it's usually in the K2 zone where that has been the case.
and we
Some-
found the transitions to be well.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we're not talking, yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah, but I don't think it would be a good idea to drop 8th grade high school kids in
No.
a situation that.
I'm just asking because I don't think that we can make that decision, but obviously our educators, obviously you, but our educators in K through 2 and the people that there would know if they would be able to say, this doesn't really work as well. So that's what I'm saying. If we had that, I'd want that feedback. I'd want to know from the people that are actually working in the school with this age group of children. No, we've had a couple first graders, we've had a couple second graders. The transitions have gone well, or they have not.
If I'm doing my job and teachers are getting the training they deserve, it will go well.
And that's the training we're talking about, or the professional development.
But if you give me the directives, a lot of my energy, I will tool it towards the objectives you give me. And if I'm doing my job right, in the next few years, the teachers will have all what they need to make that happen. But that's going to, when we talk about me approaching you with my goals and like looking theory of action out to the future, if you're giving me directives to sort of expand programming, I will do it. This will be a good chunk of the time and energy, depending on what you're asking, what you want me to do. But, you do it right to expand it. There are programs around us that you could look into some examples of programs that have many children. Ellington has many, many more students of open choice than we do. Ellington students from Hartford, we could expand to a level like that. That's an example of a district around us with many, many more open choice students. You have a question?
So right now, our 14 students range from K to 8th grade. Is that what I remember you saying? With those students, and I don't know how long they've been in here, have we had any significant discipline issues or,
Well, we have
blending in
issues with kids
issues?
from Tolland who live in Tolland.
I agree. Yeah.
When issues we could do it on Harvard, there's no real difference there. I think it's just,
Is there anything that stood out with those?
yeah, I mean, there's been some students whose situations, did not work out perfectly. But there's also kids who are living in Tolland whose situations did not work out perfectly. I think it's hard to answer that question in that, I think it comes back to, whether, I'm doing a good job preparing us for that. And I think our staff has made excellent efforts to serve all children really well, and that is manifests itself in great programming for all kids. But the larger a program, any program gets, the more support it needs, and that's going to be true of this too.
So then let me ask it a different way. Has there been any students? Has there been anything in the program currently, the open choice program, that makes you step back and say, this isn't quite working?
Well, I want to answer that by saying that the kids are always wonderful, no matter where they come from. The busing is terrible. Well, it's not great. it's just not great. And I'm not casting stones. It's, it's logistics but the busing is not good. And I think anyone who you might talk to about the programming would say that. I don't think I'm saying anything that is unique. It's, sometimes, that is a significant challenge and, hey, a lot of logistics that I don't blame, the people running the busing. It's not our busing. Maybe it should be, because if I had more direct command of that, I think we'd be doing a little bit better with it. But there's, factors there that, we have not been able to resolve quickly. So that is a headache. The busing is a headache. But it's not insurmountable.
But the kids being here, schooling, that there's been nothing in that has said that.
There's children that have been very happy with Tolland, and there's been some families and children who haven't. But the majority of the kids we have are, I think the families have been happy. And I think that's true of our general, that's true of Tolland students from Tolland and Tolland students from Hartford. Same kind of thing, just different proportion.
Any other comments?
Yeah, got one more question. Please, sorry. Oh, did you?
No, I was just gonna get through this discussion.
If a child is in the open choice program with us that lives in Hartford and then moves to a town that is not open choice eligible, what happens to that child?
They cannot stay in Tolland.
Or they have to pay tuition to be here? Is that the option
Yeah,
essentially?
but they
Right.
won't. 90% of the time they would not. It's basically, it's treated like one big place. It's tall Hartford. It's like, if you live in Tolland and you live in Hartford, you're free to go to Tolland or Hartford. But if you move out of Tolland or you move out of Hartford, you are no longer part of the Tolland-Hartford partnership. So it's, you're almost like one entity, but you have to live in one or the other. Interestingly, any child from Tolland as part of this relationship can attend any program in Hartford. So open choice goes both directions. A child from Tolland could choose to go to any Hartford school. And you're enrolled in the same district from the point of view of a mindset. So
Is Hartford the only district with the open choice? Or?
open choice in our region with these regions is Hartford. That's basically open choice within our regions.
Gotcha.
Jaden, you had something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, yeah, but I think it's a lot of things that will come up when we start having the discussion of what the actual expansion looks like. For example, we had a student in our program the other day, just lose her mind. We'll say her name is Nancy. Nancy lost her mind on us and, sort of scolded us and said, you don't know what I've dealt with. And I had to, I saw the staff member to my right about to, who are you? And I sort of put my hand and I said, she's kind of right. She's got a point. We don't know what led her to be in this exact position right now. And we don't know what has historically gotten her out of this situation. So even going to the trainings, just how to handle small instances like that, extremely helpful. And that could be a 30-minute, hour-long training, 3-hour training, whatever it is. Any bit of it helps. And it goes back to, I think, what helps mitigate a lot of those situations right there is get them in younger, right? Younger than older. So that's the pre-K and that's the kindergarten. And I like the points that everybody made, including yourself tonight, just about sort of where they envision kids start or students starting. Because I think you avoid a lot of, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've been through when they're comfortable in the environment that they've been being sent to, I guess is the best way for me to put it. So I think through this discussion, I heard a lot of great points. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I look forward to, God willing, obviously a few months from now or whenever, we bring this back up and we engage in it and we at least look toward it. How can we, I think Bill's term was get one step in front of the other here and not necessarily wait another 5 years to see results, and to see us helping children, right? And helping families. We're not just helping the children there. We're helping the families, anywho. So I just think that was, I think this was fair discussion. I think there were a lot of points made that I hope we revisit this at some point, whether it's before November or after, whatever it is. I hope we revisit this because this could be really beneficial for the district. So that's all. That's all.
Any other comments? All right, Dr. Willett, thank you. Capital plan update.
It's that time of year again, where your capital projects are getting on the radar for everyone to review. This information has been available to the Board of Ed in a couple of ways over the last few weeks. And FFC reviewed it on August 20th. The green highlighting here within the table are the fiscal year or capital plan 2026 through 2031 requests that are being recommended to you to pass on to the town. These are added to our already existing requests over the span of years. So I provide two chunks of information for you here. The first is the ones that we would be adding to the overall plan or requesting that the board ask me to recommend to the town be added. And also all of the ones that have been in process in the past. You'll notice that fiscal year 24-23, all that is off here because they are already done. But if you look through the link that is the overall history so far, consolidated into a spreadsheet, this is what I reported out to the FFC. And you'll see that the new ones are linked here too. At the bottom, there's a kind of a key. And it talks about, when opportunity arises is when, if something were to happen, like let's say somebody hit the $1.8 billion lotto, when opportunity arises, that might be it. Requests made in the September through October 2025 is whatever that color is. So I think it's awful kind of blue-green. And then previously submitted is all the yellow. So the highlighting is mainly last year and this year, or linking. But you can also find all of these projects and their breakdowns in great detail on my capital page off the superintendent's page. So there is a very long historical page right off the superintendent's site under the capital link. You can see everything in the detail. But if you want to see the detail for the ones being submitted for this coming cycle, and by the way, we would be looking at it in this meeting as a first read, then hitting it in a second read September 24th. And then I would be hoping you give me a motion to move these on to the town. I have to get them into the town's data and information by basically the beginning of October. And October 6th, I think, is the deadline. So if you click on these, or if you look at them, each disaggregates to the description and the exact cost of the program and the request. For instance, the surveillance server and storage updates. Here's the narrative. I won't read you the whole thing word for word, but it gives you the rationale as to why it is needed and the cost of the installation and equipment. It's $161,375 or $53,792 per school. So that's an example. And if you want me to read them, I will, but I'm assuming you don't. So the gym, another one would be the gym mats for the main and many gyms here at THS. And those are the ones on the walls. If you've seen them, you know why they're so important because, well, everybody hits the walls in one way or another. So it's usually good to have stuff there. But I'm sorry, I clicked on the heat pump. Okay. The gym mats, oops. Gym mats. The deceptive gym mat. Let me go over it. Okay. So it gives you a breakdown, and as you know, Pete does a great job. I mean, you look at it, it's soup to nuts. There's nothing missing here. This is 56,000, even with pictures of generally what it looks like. And anyone who's ever worked in a school who has any experience with children in a gym knows these wall gym mats are better to have there than concrete walls with no gym mats, which, you're going to end up with more Kerma money you're spending than if you had wall mats. So this is not something to mess around with. So anyway, after years, they get all worn and torn and deflated and they lose their, their protectiveness. So That's one of the other reasons why we want them. And then installation of a heat pump. You know what happens when there's no heat pump? There's no heat. So having heat's really great. These things do come and go in their, necessity. Obviously, this one has got a higher priority because, things start to fail. And when they do, we respond by trying to get these things fixed. Now, the thing with this one in particular is, this unit is meant to preserve our access control elements in what's called the MDF. And so it's a heat and cool pump. If that temperature is not maintained, the equipment dies. And that's a lot of money. You got to protect that, the climate control in those MDF closets. So that's what this does. $28,725 is a small price to pay for the probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff that's in those closets. And the closets are broken down in what's called a main distribution frame and I forget what the IDF is, but something in distribution frame. And the main one is where all of the heaviest, most expensive infrastructure is. So anyway, that's important. The new walk behind floor machine. It's a floor machine and they walk behind it. It's the SC750 unit, they push it, it's $13,000 and it basically allows custodians to clean those areas. You might imagine that we already reduced our custodians, so them individually scrubbing floors on their own is not something they can do quickly. This machine will do it much more quickly. Labor saving device, but also allows the fewer staff to clean more. And that's going to be really important because, the custodians are already overwhelmed. And the unit that we had is really old and it dates back to like 90s or something. So we need to make sure we are making it possible for them to do their jobs. And this does that. And then a medium here, concrete patio. This came up in FFC, all of it did, but concrete patio, it was originally quoted some time ago and that quote is no longer going to be accurate. And so, between the time prior to COVID when it was originally quoted and now it obviously has gone up. Also, there are regulations when the people come to look at it. You have to have your steps, you have to have certain railing and structures. So that's all playing into it now. And the total cost is $160. $67,000 was already approved. So the differential is $93,000 more to do it now. But it is important to do because these pictures don't really do the damage justice. If you want to go take a look, just go walk down at the middle school and look at the patio off to the right of the main entrance and you'll see why it needs to be done. It's in really bad shape. Somebody's going to get hurt on the steps. It's hard to see from these pictures, but there's big rivets and cracks and, same thing with your driveway. If you leave those cracks and you don't do anything about them and the rivets and the holes, every winter, the salt, the ice, everything gets in there and then it just freezes, thaws, freezes, cracks, rips it apart even more. Then you add middle schoolers to the mix. And middle schoolers are very curious creatures. They see a hole.
Yeah.
They want to know what's in that hole. They might want to test their strength. There's 100 reasons why, you really want to probably get those things patched right up. And I remember my years of geothermals when they had those geothermal things.
I was a student.
All kinds of things were found in geothermal things.
Yeah.
So don't leave an open geothermal tube at a middle school. It's a very bad idea. In any case, these are going to be important for safety. And just so it doesn't become a much more costly project the longer we wait. It's already become more costly. So that's a summary of the 5 that are being added. There may be one more, but if it does, I'll show it at you in the 24th meeting. So you have the overall picture of all of the years and everything we've had for quite some time. And then you have the ones that we'd be adding for this cycle. And we just need you eventually to endorse that so I can give it to the town manager.
Good.
I'm looking at the spreadsheet, which shows the years and the projects. And with us having to eliminate officers, for security. I'm wondering why the man trap at TMS isn't a higher priority for us.
It is, it's just, it's the cost and the time. I think it's just, CIS was easier to execute from a financial point of view, the cost and the time of the TMS, it's much bigger project. It is definitely a priority, but, and it's slated and scheduled to be done. It's just, it can't be done faster than you can get the materials and,
Are we talking about putting a man trap there, or are we talking about upgrading
You're
one that's
building
there?
the man trap.
Yeah,
there.
okay.
It's actually been planned and it's in process. It's just not gonna happen until summer.
Oh, no, one more. I see the high school roof, and we've talked about that a lot with the solar plant. That talks about $5.5 million replacement for the high school roof. Does it not get put on here, the reimbursement that we would get from the state?
You have to fund the full amount,
Okay,
just
gotcha.
in case. And then, or you have to put it out for the full amount.
Gotcha.
And if you just don't use it all, and then
You don't have to pay it all.
that's it,
Any other comments?
Oh, gosh, which one was it?
Jade?
Yeah, I had two, but I'm forgetting number two, so I'm gonna go with number one, if that's okay. Just a quick one, the Billings, MW Billings Inc., they did the inspection for the gym mats and whatnot.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Right. Are they also who we get the equipment from? Or is that separate?
Usually the inspection people aren't the same people.
Okay, well, that's why I'm asking, because
And the fire marshals and all that, also,
Somebody's
somebody's
got
got
a-
a shot at anything you're doing.
they got fingers in the hole, in the mats there, somebody could have taken a knife and opened it up.
Ah.
Hey, we need you. And that's just me being a jerk, but it's also, being realistic of not the same person inspecting it. It's not the same person benefiting from our purchasing from them, right? So that's all. I just wanted to get that clarified. Who do we purchase this equipment by, if that's allowed to be said?
I think you've got, well, the inspectors aren't necessarily the people quoting everything. And, give you another example, like Pete Stava is trained to inspect, playgrounds.
Good.
So the people that would be selling us this, I think, is Billings, but they're not the ones necessarily
Doing the, gotcha, okay.
And that finger might be, Mr. Stava's finger.
Gotcha, well, I'd rather it be his than, somebody who's trying to sell us, an extra $10,000 for,
The mystery
Different
hand
shades
is
of-
probably one of our own people, but I don't know.
there you go.
I'm not sure.
No, that's good. And then they don't come back to me the second one. It was related to the last point you had hit on, Bill, so it'll come back to me.
Yeah, well, there'll be another check.
Appreciate it.
So this is the first read, right, Dr. Will?
Correct.
It may be beneficial if possible. If we could get Pete to come for the second read. And that way, if any of the board had specifics, he's done a wonderful job of being able to explain.
Yeah, we'll try.
And James had an epiphany.
I'm a visual learner, so as soon as I saw it, bam. The concrete patio, and I'm not making a joke of the White House here. You could go from a concrete sort of patio area to more like a gardeny soil, dirt, seeds, cheaper alternative type of option. Is that not a good idea, and why might that
Well,
not?
so, not being
Right.
facetious or whatever,
No, you're good.
we are in New England.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right.
many more months of the year will be soppy, mushy,
Yeah.
wet. So the concrete actually provides a stable place, for a variety of reasons that just is. Kids coming off of muddy and mushy, mucky ground, walk into
They're busting.
piled buildings. And again, mix that with middle school excitement and exuberance
Yeah,
with slippery feet,
that's fair.
and you have hockey times. 500 exuberant middle school children.
So
Yeah.
it was a dumb question. That's why I didn't ask.
Not a dumb question.
Yeah, it's like a patio, and that's the entrance into.
Right, which is why I'm
Right. I
The
get it.
bigger thing, Jaden, would be to make sure that when we put new fresh concrete down, we're not using rock salt down there in the winter because rock salt and concrete doesn't go well.
Yeah.
That there is anti-slip stuff out there, chemical agents that
Gotcha.
don't interfere with concrete.
The lifespan of the concrete.
Exactly, yeah. There's other stuff out there, so we can't just go back
And
to rock salt.
ordinary thing. And, well, I think that's a larger conversation that.
I gotta believe that.
Down too.
We gotta believe that Pete,
Council.
Pete
He's
understands
honest.
that.
Well, he's never the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is it is really nice to have, because the
Yeah.
kids, for all the seasons that they can get out there, they do go out there. And it is such an important part of giving middle schoolers just a chance to breathe outside a little bit. It makes the whole educational experience better for everyone.
To be clear, I wasn't saying get rid of it. I was more so saying,
Add more
Make
grain.
it much.
make it a little more green. You can still keep the concrete paths and you can still make paths and I'm just asking, can cost come off of that if we insert, garden, strips or something? I don't know. Just thinking outside the box as to how we can spice that thing up while also making sure that the kids still get the benefit of that space outside and the building. The building itself gets the benefit of that space outside.
Then you gotta mow it.
And that, all right. That's right. That's right.
You could invest in a field like the high school's field and just.
Yeah, right.
I'm out. I'm out.
We get to,
We're good. Thank you.
Turf field around the school.
not that I don't appreciate your desire to give more hockey.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, any other questions or discussions on read one? Yeah. Okay. Hearing none, moving on, public participation, phase 2, 2-minute limit. Comments, please, limited to items on the agenda. As always, if you're in the room, step up, the owl will find you. Online, please raise your Zoom hand and be recognized. Give it a second opportunity. All right. Hearing none. Points of information, would anybody from the board like to speak? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the first of our executive sessions. As always, Lisa, you're welcome. We'll move these to the end. Dr. Willett can take any votes that happen once we exit executive sessions and get that information to you.
Motion.
I will accept. I'll entertain a motion for the executive session, attorney-client communication on the solar contract and negotiation.
We have to make that motion with inviting Dr. Willett.
Yes, sir.
I will make a motion to enter into an executive session for purpose of attorney-client communication for solar contract and negotiations, and also inviting Dr. Willett.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Okay, Jen.
Aye.
Aye, Bill.
Aye.
Jaden. Aye. Katie.
Aye.
Rini.
Aye.
Ann.
Aye.
Tina.
Hi.
Okay, non-board members that are online, you will be put into the waiting room. No votes will happen inside of executive session. We will come out of executive session for any votes. Appreciate your time. We will take a 5-minute break. Give Lisa time to pack up and move. All right, exited executive session at 8:44. I will now entertain a motion to enter second executive session for the purpose of superintendent evaluation.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second. Oh, yeah, we need to invite Dr. Willett.
Dana, do you want to amend your motion to invite?
Yes, Dr. Willett, I'd love to invite you to our executive session. I'd like to amend my motion.
Second discussion. All right, Jen.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Jaden.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
You could just keep it on the back and play.
I think we might have lost him. Aye.
I didn't hear my name. Sorry. Aye.
Dana, there we go.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was Dana or Dan, but I'm an aye.
I think
All right.
we lit up.
Box lit.
All right, we're good. So Dr. Willett, to the people, non-board members online. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I'd like make, I'm looking at, okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve changes to the superintendent contract as specified in the September 10th, 2025 Board of Education meeting with a 3% general wage increase of $5,774.08, 5A and 5B. Language adjustments as articulated for 6C and 6D regarding unused vacation and personal days fully provided by January 1st, and extend the contractual agreement between the Board of Education and Superintendent Walter Willett for a year, making the contract duration 3 years from July 1st, 2025 through July 30th, 2028, updating section 3. Terms of agreement and the superintendent's contract accord.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion. Okay, hearing none. Jen?
Aye.
And aye. Bill?
No.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Rini?
Nay.
Dan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
All right, Dr. Willett, motion passes 6-2. And back. Lost my agenda there. There. All right, any comments for future items, Dr. Willett?
No.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, Jen?
Aye.
And aye, Bill?
Aye.
Jaden?
Aye.
Katie?
Aye.
Rini?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Right. Meeting is over. Thank you all. Have a great night.